Alright, today we'll be cleaning the carburetor on a Suzuki TS185 motorcycle. This carburetor is obviously already off the motorcycle. We'll just be going through it, cleaning it, rebuilding it, and kind of showing you what things are. So first thing you're going to want is a flat screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, a 6, 8, 10, 12 wrench, and a small pair of pliers. Carbon choke cleaner, I prefer the Gum Out brand, and then compressed air. And the first thing we're going to do is pull this cap off. Obviously if this carburetor is off the motorcycle, we've already pulled the throttle cable out of there. But what you would do if the throttle cable was still in there, we would just unscrew this cap here. And a lot of times I'll take and loosen these up to begin with. That way we're not trying to wrestle the carburetor when it's off the motorcycle. But loosen this up. This cap is going to kind of pop up because it's spring loaded here. Now if the throttle cable is through there, what I would do is take and hold the cap in this right hand here and then just kind of walk this spring up. Now this isn't going to be totally real life because that throttle cable is supposed to be going through there, but this slide will come up with that cable. And you won't have to fight it like this because you'll just pull it right out when you pull that cable out. So hold that spring there with your hands. Throttle cable's running right down through the spring, right into that groove there. Now what you're going to do, once you get this spring pulled back enough, you can kind of wiggle that everything, and that keeper here will pop right out. Now that cable still won't come out. What you're going to have to do is push down on that cable, and you'll see it pop out that bottom hole there. You take it and slide it over to the larger groove. That cable will slide right out. You'll be able to pull this all out together. Now then your cap will still be on your cable there. Your spring will just slide right out the bottom of that cable, and then there's your cap there. You want to make sure going back together, you go back in that same order, but I'll kind of show you how to do that when we're going back together. Top cap is off, so we can set the carburetor just like that and pull these bottom 4 screws. They're all 4 Phillips. And they don't need to be extremely tight. You want to make sure it seals, that gasket is good and it seals up good. These screws are pretty commonly rounded off because people think they've got to torque them down to 10,000 foot-pounds, and that is not the case. You can just snug them up. That gasket will do the job. So got these 4 Phillips screws out here. Sometimes if this bowl is sticking on there, a lot of times what I'll do is take and just tap on it with a screwdriver, and that'll kind of break that seal, and you're able just to lift it right out of there. Now we're going to have some pieces kind of come out here because of the way this carburetor is set up, but your bowl here you can drain by taking this 10mm screw out of there, or it's a flathead screw, either way, and you can remove that. A couple turns out, fuel will start dumping out the bottom there. That's how you drain the fuel if you want to drain it for the winter, or if you've got some bad fuel in there. Now if you got bad fuel in there, more than likely you're going to need to pull this bowl off anyways, so not a real reason to pull that bolt as well. But pull that fuel or this bowl off here. Now these slides just slide off the top of these posts here, and they are, you can see here they have the word up on them, and those pins stick through there. Those pins are going to ride right here on this arm, so you want to make sure that those are both going the same direction. Actually, that's not up. Like this here. Going back together, I'll show you too, but we'll just slide those on there. Posts want to be on the inside, so both posts will be on this side. And I'll show you here. That's how it's going to look going back together. So we've got your pilot screw that's clear down in here. This is your main jet. Pilot screw is generally the one that gets plugged up, and it's a flat screw. You just take it, unscrew it like that. It's a pretty small head in there, so just be careful. Make sure you're on it before you start unscrewing it. So I like to take carbon choke cleaner, Gum Out brand, spray through there, then take compressed air, blow through there. Then you can also blow through this, and I'll show you a couple areas that you can blow through as we go. But that's the pilot jet there. If you can't see through it, holding it up to light, then it's not clean. So you want to make sure you get it nice and clean before going back together. This one here is a 6mm screw, and this is your main jet here. There's a lot bigger port on this, and then we've got a brass washer underneath. So your slide here with your needle on it will slide right down into that main jet. One more thing on this, this needle is adjustable, so you want to make sure, depending on altitude, riding conditions, performance done to the bike, that needle is in the right position. Now to get this pin out, to get your needle and seat, this is the needle here, this is the seat underneath there. You take this pin out. Sometimes these pins get stuck in there. You can take a pick and push on there just to make sure you're not hitting these tabs here. These are aluminum, they break off very easily. So pull that pin out and your needle will come with this arm here. This arm is adjustable for your needle and seat. If you need to close it up just slightly because fuel is constantly dripping, just take and push that down just slightly. You don't want to do that a whole lot. You don't want to do that if your needle and seat are bad and need replaced. So that is your needle. Your needle's out. You can take that off of there. You can put it back on here either direction, doesn't really matter. But you want to make sure this rubber tip on here is good, it's not grooved, not showing any kind of wear. Pull your seat out, just take a 10 millimeter, put it on there, twist it out, it'll just spin right out of there. Make sure that's got a good O-ring on there going back together. So, go back together now, make sure your brass washer is on there before your main jet. Spin that main jet on there, tighten it down with a 6 millimeter wrench. Pilot jet, same thing, go down in there, take a small flat screwdriver, twist it on there. Now take your needle and seat, your post is going to be up. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but got a small post here, and that's going to go in the up direction. So put the needle on there, slide it down into the seat there, take your pin, slide it through there. Now for this, make sure this O-ring here is good, make sure it's not cracked or anything. Take this now and put it in there, and then you can tighten down your Phillips screws. I'm just going to tighten down 2 of them just for the sake of time so we can get that top cap hook back on. So once we get 2 of them on there, that'll hold everything where it's supposed to go. And we'll flip this over. Now your needle and seat here, this is adjustable. I'll go through your choke too. 12 millimeter to undo your choke here. It's a plunger underneath here. Loosen it up. Once you get it loosened, a lot of times I like to take my fingers here, kind of hold everything together and unscrew it. The plunger is spring loaded, so it'll pop back and forth depending on where you have that arm, and I'll show you that here in a second. But make sure that plunger is free and clear. You can blow through there. If you blow through this port, a lot of times it'll come, or it's supposed to come up through that port there. So if you have debris in there, it should come out there. Going back together, you want to make sure. I try to keep it when I set it down, keep it all together. But if you can't, you can check this video out and see the order of everything. But tighten it down a couple turns before you put a wrench on and tighten it down, just so you're not cross-threading it. Now this arm here, this is what keeps it in position, keeps it choked, or keeps it not choked. You want to make sure this little rod is underneath there. Now when you lift it up, you want to make sure that it holds itself there. We're not quite tight here, but alright, tighten these down. Now sliding this in, we've got your idle adjust here, and that's going to hit right here on your slide. Your needle, you want to make sure that that's in there, and then also your clip. And if this clip isn't seated right, I take small pliers, just set it into the groove there. Obviously your cable, you're going to go back together the opposite of how we took it apart. And then we've got an O-ring on this cap here. You want to make sure that that's good and make sure it's in the correct position before going back together. That is a carburetor on a Suzuki TS185.